Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Friday morning edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Well rested. Went to sleep before 10 for the first time since 1996, maybe. I don't know. Feels pretty good. Yeah, we have a big 11-game slate tonight since there are no games tomorrow on Christmas Eve. It's the night before. Joining me as always in another Christmas sweater. I like these Christmas sweater series. I wish I had some more Christmas sweaters. Waiting on DraftKings to send me my DraftKings Christmas sweater. Some Cliffy, how we doing?
We're doing good. Good morning here. Yeah, I got my old Razor Ramon ugly Christmas sweater on today. Last one before the break. Pretty wild slate last night. I think Seattle's goaltending did what Seattle's goaltending always does, and I guess Vancouver's does to an extent. 10 goals in that game going to a shootout. Lots of teams that played last night are playing again here tonight or yesterday afternoon. I mean, you got Philly and Carolina both. You got Boston. You got Winnipeg. You got Washington. You got the Islanders. Those are just through the first four games. It's going to be a big news day in that sense. And I'm waiting to see because we've had two postponements already. You're saying the weather in New Jersey is not going to be so bad. So shouldn't be a big concern about Boston and New Jersey. But it is going to be a big news day because there could be players returning. There could be lineup changes from all the teams that played last night that we won't know about till later in the day. So just keep an eye. Stokastic members especially, check the Discord. Keep an eye on lineup and injury news. I imagine there's going to be a lot of it today. And we got to give a shout out to the winners last night, of course. Our boss, Jake Harry, Tommy Nation 1, took down the $5 on DK. And then Mr. G himself, Saul Goodman, took down the 10K. So congrats to those two. Nice little boost to the bankroll heading into the holidays. And hopefully we can get some others at the top of the leaderboard here tonight.
I don't know why every time I hear Tommy Nation 2 or Tommy Nation 1, all I want to do is Zoltan. I don't know why. I like – anyway, congrats to you guys. Jake had Lane Peterson in the winning lineup. Thanks, Fantasy Cruncher.
I mean, we did talk about how he typically has really good shooting percentages in the AHL. Obviously Elias Pettersson having 5 points was a big part of that night. But, yeah, good old Lane Peterson got on the board. 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 shot. Pretty efficient on his part.
Yeah, and it's Festivus. Festivus isn't over until you pin me. So, yeah. We have a big 11-game slate. We probably should start talking about it. I mean, we have like an extra 10 minutes in case we do run over. The next show isn't until 9:45 a.m. Eastern because who starts at 8:30? We do. But before we do, make sure to give us a like and subscribe. All you hardcores here probably are already liked and subscribed, but for those people driving home from work when they're listening to this in about 7 hours, hit that like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Don't forget, all of our content is available in podcast form on the platform of your choice. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. Just want to give a quick shout out to BetMGM, our sponsor of the show. We have a nice deal for you in a little bit. But let's get into the slate. Yeah, Kyle's comfy on his couch. I'm comfy in my chair in my Jet sweatshirt after that Hall of Fame worthy performance by Zach Wilson last night.
I was watching a bit of that game too. That was hard to watch. That looked like a 13-year-old playing backyard football with his buddies. That's the best way I can describe it.
A Mormon in New York. What could go wrong? Like, you know what I mean?
Okay. I don't know what that has to do with anything.
I don't know. It's got a hot mom though. Anyway, let's get into here. We are Friday morning. Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. Expect nothing less. Let's get into the slate. We have the Boston Bruins heading into New Jersey. Linus Ullmark is confirmed. Mackenzie Blackwood is probable. I'm just going by who's probable in the lineup builder. There haven't been morning skates yet. it could be, Vitek Vanacek. We just won't know. But I'm just going to go off the lineup builder, says Mackenzie Blackwood. Boston back-to-back on the road. The weather in New Jersey is not winter-like, but it is very windy. It is very rainy, but the game should not be affected by that as they play indoors. So, I don't know. A lot of games on this slate, 11. Obviously, there are some pretty high-octane matchups. I'm kind of mum on this game as we talk about it at 8:35 Eastern. There are a lot of back-to-back teams on this slate, but I don't know. New Jersey's a good defensive team. Blackwood actually played well in his return. Boston 1's always in play here, but like you mentioned all the time, their scoring with DeBrusk there instead of Pastrnak is so much lower. If you want to, go Boston 1 with Pastrnak instead of DeBrusk, that's fine. I just don't really like stacking against New Jersey. They're fresh. They're a good defensive team. This is an MME game for me.
Yeah. What we always, we should probably mention it again, but what we always mention is that the Boston top line with Jake DeBrusk, and I'm going back to last year now, 455 minutes together going back to last year, 2.9 goals per 60 minutes. If we want to put that in perspective, that's less than the Coleman, Backlund, Ruzicka line from the Flames this year. They're scoring at the same rate as Calgary's third line. That's always been the problem with using this particular Boston combination. Just look at what happened last night, right? Boston ends up winning 3-2. David Pastrnak, goal and an assist. Nick Foligno, goal and assist. They had the best nights out of the forwards. Patrice Bergeron didn't even play that much last night. I think he only played 17 or 18 minutes, a lot less than his wingers. So, or at least Marchand. So that's another problem. Back-to-back on the road going into New Jersey. I think if it is Mackenzie Blackwood, I would have some interest in the Bruins, but I think this is a situation where I would be one-offing guys. David Pastrnak, always a good one-off. We'll get to the defenseman, Hampus Lindholm. At his price, he's still a good one-off, I think. We should mention Boston moved Taylor Hall back to the second line in the third period last night. If Taylor Hall's there, I probably have a little bit more interest in Boston too, as a line to stack them. Because it's not a great power play spot, as you mentioned. The Devils don't take a ton of penalties, below average in that regard, 3.1 times shorthanded. The penalty kill is just fine. Boston could shred any penalty kill, but it's not a great situation for them. So I might have a little bit more interest in Boston too, but I don't really have a whole lot in this game, stacking wise, I think. Especially where Swayman went last night, and it's going to be Allmark tonight. Swayman's the goalie that struggled this year. He struggled in the first period, certainly against Winnipeg, kind of shut things down after that. But Allmark's been – I wrote about him today, actually, in a season-long fantasy hockey site. He's been just unbelievable over the last calendar year for the Bruins, even if you take into account how good that team is. So probably no stacking for me in this game. I think David Pastrnak one-off is fine. Jack Hughes, I think his price on FanDuel is a little ridiculous at 9,500. But he's fine on DK as a one-off, I guess. Certainly Thomas Tatar with his top power play role, he's fine. Boston's penalty kill has been still good, but not, super elite or anything. But I don't think I'm stacking anything here.
Yeah, I agree with you on Boston too. The problem is Taylor Hall, a notoriously poor finisher, although Mackenzie Blackwood's high danger save percentage could help that out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Boston 2, I don't think you need to add in Krejci. I think you could do a Pastrnak one-off, Taylor Hall, Pastrnak two-man. But not a priority for me in 1 to 3. MME, that is stuff you can do on the blue line. I think Hampus Lindholm at 4,700 is still fine despite, a poor power play matchup. Mac Grzelcyk down under 3K. Brennan Carlo still min price. On the Devil side, Ryan Graves left hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a question mark. Siegenthaler down to 2,700 on DK. That is the guy I'm looking at. Also, Severson.
Yeah, Severson is kind of the guy I was looking at. He's played some pretty big minutes since getting back to the lineup. 24 in his first game, 28 in his second. He is very cheap, 2,700 on DK. Don't mind him. Charlie McAvoy, 21 minutes, back-to-back games. Now that he's off the power play, like I think there's other guys in that price range that I'd rather use. So it's probably Hampus Lindholm. Brandon Carlo at 2,500 Stone Min is always in play for me when he's at that price. He's like a block bonus candidate. And we saw earlier this week, he can get on the score sheet every once in a while. So I don't mind Carlo either.
Yep, agreed there. Winnipeg Jets heading into Washington to face the Capitals. Both these teams are on back-to-backs. But it is the Christmas break, so it would not shock me to see Hellebuck again. I would imagine Charlie Lindgren goes for the Capitals. Could be big save day for the Jets, but we'll have to wait and see. Like, these back-to-back games are just, I don't know, like especially these two teams with these lines with, the injuries on the Jets side. Bacon's mad at the garbage truck. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably going to be on the – I'd probably be more apt to be on the Cap side if we get the announcement that Rittich is in the net. And, it's not the best power play matchup, so I think you can just go full stack that top line. I think, Marcus Johansson moved up to the second line at times last game and scored the OT winner. Like, I think Evgeny Kuznetsov is fine as a one-off, but I think, Caps 1 is my favorite line from this game.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to have a whole lot from the Winnipeg side here. They haven't the top line in particular hasn't looked that great with Carson Kuhlman there. I don't think that should be a big surprise to anybody. But Mark Scheifele's good, but he can't carry Carson Kuhlman and a guy that's essentially a rookie on his other wing, even as good as Perfidi might be. Washington has been good defensively. The penalty kill certainly has been pretty good. So I don't think it's a particularly good spot here for the Jets. Like something like, Sam Gagne playing on the second line. If you want to one-off him to save a bunch of money, I think something like that's fine. Kyle Connor's always in consideration as a one-off because of how much he can shoot and score. Even though Connor, like, his shots of late have kind of bothered me. He has 36 shots in his last 10 games, but 11 of those came in the game. So, like, that's a little over 2.5 shots in the rest. Like, he's just not been shooting as much, generally speaking, or as consistently with Pierre-Luc Dubois as a center as opposed to Scheifele. So that's a bit of a concern, but there are some one-off options on the Jet side. But yeah, I agree with you. If I'm stacking anything, I'm stacking Washington, especially if Rittich is in net. That's a pretty big downgrade, one of the biggest in the league. I mean, that Washington top line has 200 minutes together now already on the season, 3.8 expected goals per 60 minutes, 1.8 actual goals. They're shooting 4.5%. Like, once that starts to right itself, they're really going to start filling the net. I mean, Ovi, he didn't get a goal last night, but he had 2 assists and 6 shots. Like, they're knocking on the door. So I'm with you. I don't mind Washington 1 as a full line stack. I don't think it's going to be a particularly tough matchup against either of the top 2 Winnipeg lines. And like, if Rittich is in net, even better. I think you can do something like Ovechkin, Sheary, and then put Kuznetsov in instead of Strome if you want, or just do Ovechkin, Strome, and Kuznetsov, have a double center. Strome doesn't shoot a lot, so you're relying on him to rack up a bunch of assists. So, even him, I think you could leave off. But he's at the price point where he doesn't need a lot. Like, if he gets 2 assists and a couple shots, like, that's probably fine for him. But yeah, Washington 1 or Washington power play is kind of what I'm looking at in this game, especially if it's Rittich in instead of Connor Hellebuck.
Yep, agreed there. On the blue line here, Morrissey had another assist yesterday. I think that was like his 33rd assist of the season, which is just bonkers considering what he's done in seasons past. I don't know if this is the best spot for him, but he's probably the expensive guy that I would play on the Winnipeg side if I had to. Otherwise, Brendan Dillon still min price. Dylan DeMello, 2,900. On the Cap side, if you're not paying up for John Carlson, I think Dmitry Orlov would be my preferred play.
Yeah, Dylan's ice time kind of got nuked last night, which I was thinking might happen because they had him lined up on the third pair to start the game. And I was thinking it's one of those situations where he's on the third pair, but he's still going to play like 20 or 21 minutes. It wasn't. I think he played like 17 last night. That kind of takes a little bit of sting out of Min Price. I think I'd probably rather play Brandon Carlo. Neil Pionk played a lot of minutes last night. I think he's fine to go back to, but it is the cap side. Eric Gustafsson on the top power play unit last night for Washington. Him and Carlson both. I think either are fine. I think with the savings you get with Gustafsson, I would probably rather use him, and it makes for a relatively cheap power play stack on the Washington side.
Eric Gustafsson.
I had to mention him. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's move on to the next one. Philadelphia Flyers heading into Carolina to face the Hurricanes. These teams also played yesterday. Carter Hart won yesterday, so it could be Felix Sandstrom, Pyotr Kuchetkov probably in net as Antti Ranta won yesterday. We talked yesterday about Aho possibly being in. I think based off their early morning totals that Vegas might be expecting him in tonight. He did practice, not yesterday, the day before that, and the coach said he wanted to see one practice. I figured if he was going to be out yesterday, he might play today. They probably wanted to play him one of the two games on the back-to-back. We'll have to wait and see on news. That's complete conjecture, but I have a feeling that we might see Aho tonight, and if that is the case, and he does slot into the Carolina top line, I will have a lot of interest there, especially if it is not Carter Hart. Even if it is Carter Hart, again, I would have interest in Carolina one here. If Aho is out, I think you can take bits and pieces from that top line. But, maybe that going back to that third line would be a nice filler. On the Flyer side, I just don't have too much interest.
I was writing about Carolina last night. They're 11-0-2 in their last 13 games going back to Thanksgiving. They don't have a regulation loss in 13 straight games. They absolutely – I watched a good bit of that Carolina-Pittsburgh game last night. They just throttled the Penguins. Like, Pittsburgh didn't look like they could really generate anything consistently at all. It's scary to think that this team is running out effectively the top two centers of Paul Stastny and Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and they go into Pittsburgh and just absolutely destroy the Penguins. Like, that's a scary thought. Carolina has been looking very good. The top line was good again last night. Stastny, Svechnikov, and Necas. We talked yesterday how good they had been offensively. That certainly continued last night. Necas scored, had 6 shots on goal. That's 3 block bonuses for Necas, or 3 shot bonuses for Necas in his last 5 games. Those games all being without Sebastian Aho in the lineup. He has 25 shots in 5 games. He's really helped carry this team. I do kind of like Carolina one here. Like, I'm assuming because they had been taking top line competition at home with Aho out. It wasn't the stall line, so they could go out against Van Riemsdyk, Frost, and Tippett here tonight. They've been good, but a pretty high event line both ways, like generating a lot offensively, but also allowing a lot defensively. So if Stastny's in, that could make, a reasonably good top line matchup, especially with Sandstrom in net. That would be a big downgrade from Carter Hart, obviously. So I kind of do like the Carolina top line. We will wait to see on news about Sebastian Aho. He is expensive at $6,600, so it would bring that line to nearly $20K if it's Fetch, Aho, and Necas. So we'll see what happens there. But I like that line even with Stastny, and I think it's a good matchup against the Flyers. You get their backup. Carolina's been absolutely throttling the competition, so don't mind them. If you want just one-off Necas or one-off Fetch, I think that's perfectly fine as well. On the Flyer side, nothing for me, I don't think. If anything, like a one-off Owen Tippett, I think is fine. He has 16 shots in his last 5 games. He's definitely been getting some reasonable minutes, I should say. I don't think there's a lot to stack on the Flyer side going into Carolina. So it's pretty much just Carolina one for me. We'll see about the Aho news.
Yep. On the blue line, on the Flyer side, I think it's going to be the shot blockers like Rasmus Ristolainen and Travis Sanheim. If you want to, spend up for Provorov, if you're in that range, I think that's fine. On the Carolina side, Brady Shea was out yesterday. I don't know if he'll be back in tonight. If he's not, Jalen Chatfield, Min Price saw a bump in minutes. Brett Pesce, 3,400. Jacob Slavin, 3,800. This is a good spot for Burns as well.
Yeah, should mention Chatfield played over 16 minutes last night. Still not a lot, but for a guy that usually plays like 12 or 13 minutes, it is a good bump for him. Jacob Slavin, our buddy, overtime winner last night. Good for him. Played over 25 minutes again. If Shea is out, I don't mind going right back to Slavin. I don't think I'd go to Burns here. Philly has the lowest shots against rate on the penalty kill since Thanksgiving. That's been about a month now. Pretty good penalty kill. No Aho has really hurt the Carolina power play, so I'm out on Burns. It'd probably be Slavin or Chatfield. I agree.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the next one. Florida Panthers heading into New York. It's pretty miserable. The Islanders to face the Islanders. Islanders played last night against the Rangers. Rangers whooped that ass. So it's probably going to be Sorokin went last night, so it's probably going to be Semyon Varlamov. I don't know why I struggle with that name so much, but here we are. We'll wait and see on the Panthers. Could be Bob. Could be.
Yeah, Varlamov's out. He's injured. The B writers were even saying that they're kind of expecting Sorokin to go back to back here.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't know any news on Barkov.
I don't think he's coming back until after the break. They said they hope to have him for the first game back after the break.
Yeah, so you're probably going to see the top line of Verhaeghe, Bennett, Tkachuk again. Second line of E2D2, Luosterainen with Lundell and Reinhart. I don't mind the Florida side here. We'll have to see on ownership. Even if it is Sorokin back to back, which it sounds like it is. I think there's stuff to like on the Florida side, just because the Islanders aren't very good defensively. Sorokin went last night, gave up 4 goals. I think I like the Panthers here.
Yeah, it's kind of a sneaky spot for Florida, I think. That top line for the Panthers has been excellent. Verhaeghe, Bennett, Tkachuk, 85 minutes together since Thanksgiving. A lot of that, obviously, with Barkov missing. 3.8 expected goals for, 3.8 actual goals for. Problems is like the shots are starting to get spread around a little bit. Like Matthew Tkachuk only has 22 shots in his last 10 games. Like 2.2 shots per game over any meaningful stretch for Tkachuk is pretty bad. Whereas, Sam Bennett, he has 17 shots just in his last 5 games alone. Like it seems like the shots are going to other players on the line, which, it can help Tkachuk a little bit. Like maybe he can rack up some assists and you're not just relying on him to score or something like that. But they should get a good matchup at home against or on the road against the Islanders. Sorokin has been absolutely excellent this year, but he has looked fairly human in his last few games, right? Like he hasn't necessarily looked like the Sorokin we know over his last 4 or 5 starts, but like goalies go through those stretches all the time. So I'm not super concerned about it, but they are probably going to get the Islanders top line, like the Barzal matchup a little bit. Barzal line, 2.9 expected goals against per 60 minutes. I think you're right. This is a decent spot for Florida 1, regardless of who in net, especially if it's not Sorokin. But even if it's Sorokin, Florida 1 would be a line I'd be considering in certainly 20 max, 150, stuff like that. They'll probably play heavy minutes. Might be a good matchup here against the Islanders. The Florida second line, like Luosterainen and Lundell, have actually been pretty good together. 2.8 expected goals for, 1.6 against, and well over 100 minutes together. So, if you want a cheap 2-man, I think like a Lundell, Luosterainen, or Luosterainen, Reinhart, or something like that, going up against the Islanders second line, which isn't good defensively, I think is fine. So we'll wait to see for goalie confirmations. I do have interest in the Florida top line, but I don't think I'm going to get there in single entry. It'd be the second line I might look to for like a cheap-ish 2-man stack. On the Islanders side, I don't know. If anything, probably the top line, Barzal, Wahlstrom, and Bailey. The Panthers do take a lot of penalties, so maybe you want to get Lee and Nelson for that, added power play exposure and go with the Islanders second line. But Barzal, Wahlstrom, and Bailey are fairly cheap. They do generate some offense when they're on the ice together. Wahlstrom's not shooting a lot, so that's a bit of a concern. Maybe some one-offs might be the better way to go from the Islanders side. So I have no real problem with Islanders too, especially Brock Nelson played like 22 minutes or something like that, or 23 minutes last night. It was crazy. Probably Islanders 2 if I'm full stacking anything. Islanders 1, I'll be looking for some one-offs. The Florida side, probably the second line just for cheap duo two-mans.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see on the ownership run on Florida 1, because if they're going to have a lot of positive leverage here tonight, I'll be more interested. If they're going to be popular, I'll probably look elsewhere, but I do like them, even if it is Sorokin back-to-back. We mentioned the points on Sorokin. Let's move to the blue line here on the Florida side. It's not the best power play matchup here. Rangers scored on the power play last night against the Islanders, but like Ekblad and Montour, their prices are under 6K. So if you're spending up, don't mind. Like Gustav Forsling in that mix as well. Like he's kind of like the Fox Trouba conundrum. If the power play matchup isn't great, you go to Gustav Forsling. So I don't mind that there. On the Islander side, I think we go back to the Discord hero. Discord hero got stars in his eyes. Alexander Romanov. Sorry, I just had to hit that chord for you guys. Sebastian Aho at 2,500. Scott Mayfield, 3,400.
Yeah, I'll mention our buddy Sebastian Aho once again. Obviously Romanov was the hero last night. Aho did play well over 20 minutes, still min price. He's another one of those super mint. If you need a $2,500 defenseman, I don't mind using him. On the Florida side, I might be going back to Forsling. He's projecting well. Obviously Ekblad still projecting the most because he does get that PP one time, but don't mind Forsling here again. Especially where the Islanders do give up quite a bit at 5-on-5. I'll just mention this before we move on real briefly. Florida 1, I'm just looking at the early projections, coming in at about 36 combined points on DraftKings here tonight between the three of them. That would have been first on the slate last night. So pretty strong projections on Florida 1 early on here.
Yeah, and I need to have this question answered. Did the Blackhawks release Forsling or did they trade him to Florida?
Believe it was waivers. No, he got traded from Chicago to Carolina and then got picked up off waivers from Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Imagine the Carolina blue line with Forsling there. Yeah. They wouldn't need Brent Burns.
Yeah. Wouldn't need to trade for the Wookiee, you're right. As we mentioned off the top, we are sponsored by BetMGM. We can get you a BetMGM risk-free bet up to $1,000 and 2 months of Stokastic Plus Platinum for free. All you got to do is click the link in the description, follow the steps. You need to create a Stokastic membership. If you have one, just log in. Then click the BetMGM button that appears after logging in. Complete the steps, which are easy. Create a sportsbook account, deposit at least $10, make your first paid bet. I don't have a bet this early in the morning for you guys, but if you look on Twitter, I will post one for the BetMGM subscriptions. Your bet must settle to qualify, obviously, and then you'll receive an email from BetMGM with instructions for redeeming your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Make sure you click the link in the description below for more details and to sign up. Colorado is heading into Nashville to play the Predators. Georgiev and the UC Saros are probable. Excuse me. We're assuming. Oh, totals just popped up. Both these teams are under 3, so we get back-to-back days with teams under 3 here. 2.9 for Colorado, 2.7 for Nashville. That being said, the top line's fully correlated. Nashville doesn't have a great penalty kill, so I don't mind going back to the top line here. Like Mikko Rantanen is just playing bananas minutes right now. He's like 25 plus. I don't even know why. Like Martin Kaut plays like 6 minutes. Curtis McDermott played 3. Jacob McDonald played 3. So they're running out 3 lines essentially. These top guys are playing massive minutes. So despite the total, I have interest in Colorado 1. On the Nashville side, like these power play units are just bonkers. Like we saw a power play 1 goal from the Preds last game, which was Thomas Novak from Roman Josi and Juuso Parsinen. So like these power play units are just absolutely insane. I think my preferred option for the Preds is really just going back to Cody Glass and Nito Niederreiter.
Yeah, we should mention Nashville changed up their lines in a win against Chicago. Anyways, they put Parsinen back on the top line with Forsberg and Granlund, where he had been playing when he first got called up. That line doesn't have great numbers together, as most lines with Michael Granlund don't this year. 2.7 expected goals for per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, 3.3 against. Not allowing very many goals against, but you can thank UC Saros for that. Philip Forsberg, only 15 shots in his last 5 games. That's really not kind of what you want to see from him. With Parson in there, you get 2 to the 3 guys on the same power play. Parsonen is really cheap, as is Granlund. So I think you can stack the whole line for under 12,500, which, it's something. It's a top line that'll probably, the guys will play anywhere from 15 to 19 minutes, Parsonen on the low end, Forsberg and Granlund on the high end. That's something, but it's not a lot. And I don't have a lot of faith in Nashville keeping their lines together. That's something that they've been doing a lot lately, is just changing up their lines. So I kind of like, if you want to go Glass Niederreiter, I think that's perfectly fine. They have been playing quite a bit together, at least consistently 15, 16 minutes a night. I would probably go back to maybe a one-off Matt Duchene. As long as he's not playing with Granlund, it's fine. But I honestly don't have much interest in the Nashville side. On the Colorado side, I think it's back to Colorado 1. Not a huge sample together, but they are carrying the play a lot, at least by shot attempt share. They're all playing 21 to 25 minutes. Mikko Rantanen is averaging over 6 shots a game in his last 5 games. If you don't want a full stack, you just want a one-off Rantanen, I think that's perfectly fine. But it is Colorado 1 that I like the most in this game. It would be cheap duo 2-mans on the Nashville side for me.
Yeah. As Jake just mentioned, there's only 2 more days for the BetMGM promo. So if you're ever on the fence about it, go do it now. We're talking about this game. Go bet Roman Josi to get an assist again. There you go. BetMGM pick. Let's move to the blue line. Roman Josi, always in play. 8,400. We talk about Jake. We talk about BetMGM. How can you not talk about Roman Josi? Listen, I'm not going to force him into my lineup. If you get there, you get there. Ryan McDonough, 2,800 is fine. Matthias Ekholm, 3,200, also fine. The top 4 defensemen on the Avalanche side just plays massive minutes. So depending on your price points, go pick one and go play him.
Yeah, I'll mention Devin Tays. It's starting to shoot a little bit, nearly 2.5 shots per game in his last 10, which is something he wasn't doing a lot earlier in the season. I think he's still kind of overpriced until Nathan McKinnon gets back and Landeskog, I guess. So for me, it would probably be paying down for Girard or up for Makar on the Colorado side. For Nashville, I'm tempted to go back to Alex Carrier. He did play 22 minutes in the last game, but that was against Chicago, and Josi only played 22 minutes himself. And I got to think if Josi gets up to like 25 or 26 here, it's going to be Carrier that's going to be on the losing end of those minutes. So I don't mind him as a min-price punt. I just, I have a little worry about the minutes he might play.
Yeah. But for min price, even if he gets, 17, 18 minutes, he could pay off at the price. Let's move on to the next one. Montreal Canadiens with a 2.3 total. Heading into Dallas, the Stars have a 3.7 total. Jake Allen, Jake Ottinger. Probable. Dallas 1 game. Color me shocked. Very good power play matchup here. They are expensive, but they have a massive projection. If they were on the slate yesterday, they'd be free and clear as the top line by 7 points. That's 20% higher than Boston was yesterday. I also like that third line. Johnson maybe doesn't play a ton of minutes, but he's only 3K. Mason Marchman's been shooting. Jamie Benn obviously on that top power play unit. So this is a Dallas Stars game for me. Don't mind getting to some Dvorak, Hoffman again. If you want to go to the top line, that's fine. I just prefer the cheaper guys on Montreal.
I'm not going to go to the Montreal 1 here. A little bit too expensive, really bad matchup. I'm not in on the Habs top line. What I will mention is Juraj Slafkovsky and Josh Anderson have played 100 minutes together now. Much to my surprise, they're break even by expected goal share, which on this Montreal team with a rookie and Josh Anderson, who's typically really bad defensively, to be break even for 100 minutes feels like a miracle. That's a 10-game sample for guys playing second, third line, 5-on-5 minutes. So I think I wouldn't hate like just dipping, if you need a cheap two-man, Anderson and Stokastic under 6K total on DraftKings, you know what I mean? So if you're stacking expensive Boston or something like that, I think that's fine. But I'm not full stacking anything on the Montreal side. On the Dallas side, yeah, the top line coming in with the highest projected line total on the slate here. Second will be the next game that we talk about, and it's our old buddies, the Columbus Blue Jackets. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Dallas one's still rolling. Not playing super heavy minutes, but still 17 or 19 minutes. The Montreal penalty kills, giving up a fair number of shots, but goaltending has kind of let them down a little bit, which, can't hang on the entire season. Tremendous matchup for the Dallas top line. I really do like them. I think they would probably be, one of the priority plays on the slate. I imagine they come in like that 10, 12% ownership range, which I think is just fine for how much upside they do have in this matchup. So I do like Dallas one quite a bit here tonight, even if they are relatively expensive. I think going back to two-man like Johnston, Marchment or something like that is fine if you dip down. But I have a feeling they might carry some fairly high ownership as one of those, cheaper stacks, coming in about 4% by our top stacks tool. So I think it's Dallas one, maybe like a Stokastic or Anderson from the Montreal side, and that's it.
Dog bark on Dallas one is
Dallas one. That's a Dallas one dog bark. Yeah,
that's the scene. Now their ownership's going to go to like 30%. Thanks, Bacon. But yeah, let's go to the one thing I'll just say real quickly on Dallas one. Hinson's getting expensive, but he has been shooting the puck more, so I think that is fine. Blue line here. Miro Heiskanen at the power play. It's not completely necessary to add him in, but you can. Otherwise, we're going to Essa Lindell. Ryan Suter's price has come up a little bit too much for my liking, so Lindell.
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't like Suter at 3,300. Prefer him at like 2,700 or something. Caden Gooley over 25 minutes in the last game. I guess that's playable for 3,200. Not super stoked about it. Feels like one of those games where Joel Edmondson is going to have to block like 7 shots or something like that. Don't really mind Edmondson if you want to pay up a little bit on the blue line. Kovacevic played over 20 minutes. Did nothing with it. Absolute bagel in his last game, but still played over 20 minutes in his last one. So I'll mention him again.
We're going to talk about shot blocks. We're going to talk about our boy Eric Branson, which is coming up. Columbus Blue Jackets with a 3.2 total heading into Chicago. The Blackhawks also have a 3.2 total. Your nemesis, Chicago One, has a 33.3 point projection with Tyler Johnson up there, which is, quite a scene. However, the Blue Jackets with Kent Johnson in between Gaudreau and Laine. Kent Johnson's actually looked pretty good up there. He's my guy, so maybe I have the blinders on, but I do really like Columbus One here tonight. I don't mind that second line. Like, for as good as Kent Johnson's look, so is Kirill Marchenko. Minutes are a bit of concern there, but like playing with Roslovic and Nyquist, like it's not bad. I would imagine Taves, Radish, Kurashev go out against Kent Johnson, line, and Gaudreau. So that leaves, that second line against either the top line or depth of Chicago, which is just, we'll just say bad. But I do really like Columbus One here tonight. I guess you got to consider Chicago top line. Like Daniil Tarasov has actually played pretty well, but Columbus just isn't great defensively. I'm not going to play Chicago in 1-3. Like I'm slowly like dying as I'm saying this. Like
I can feel it, how much it hurts you to say exactly what you're saying right now.
But I think you have to at least consider some Domi Kane and MME.
Yeah, you have to consider them. Their combined point projection today is outpacing Boston's top line and the Hughes line and the Svechnikov line. They have a pretty good projection, which, it does make sense. It's one of those concentrated scoring things that we talk about, like Columbus. Like, if Chicago has a good game here tonight, goals-wise, it's going to come from the power play guys, maybe Tyler Johnson skating on the top line, right? Like, it's not going to come from a Jason Dickinson hat trick or something like that. I really hope it doesn't. So Chicago's top line is probably going to carry double-digit ownership here tonight because they are a cheap line that, a couple of guys at least will play 19, 20 minutes. Like you said, Columbus, a pretty poor defensive team, especially where, that Chicago top line is probably going to see the second line for the Jackets. That Nyquist-Roslovic duo hasn't been that good together this year. I was looking at their minutes together. They're at over 100 minutes together, 37% Corsi share.
It's not bad for Columbus.
93 shot attempts against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. That's like that would be like a penalty kill rate, not a 5-on-5 rate. So it is a good matchup for the Chicago top line. Chicago power play actually hasn't been bad. So yeah, I guess I don't mind Kane, Domi, and Johnson. It's just the ownership that would kind of keep me off of them. The Chicago second line, nothing for me there. They'll be go up against Columbus one. They haven't been that good this year, certainly not that good of late. I mean, if you want to one-off like a Taylor Radish because he's on the power play or something like that, I think you can do it. But it's top line or bust for me from the Blackhawks. On the Columbus side, Columbus one is carrying a really, really high projection, coming in with reasonable ownership too, under 7%. Like, I don't care if it's Columbus. I don't care if they're a bad team or whatever. I think Chicago's still worse. The Chicago penalty kill is certainly much worse than the Columbus one. So, I think it's Columbus one for me that I really do like the most in this game, even if you consider the price. Much lower ownership. They do have a reasonable sample together of performing well enough offensively. So, I think it's Columbus one I like in this one. You want to play Chicago one, no issue, but it's the Jacket side for me.
Yeah. I just, playing Chicago is just, that roster is just so bad. Anyway, let's move to the blue line. Marcus Bjork on the top power play. It's just kind of like the Chris Weidman scenario. I'm just going to play Goodbranson. You could play Gavrikov as well. Tim Burney, min price. Just wanted to say Tim Burney. On the Chicago side, it's a pretty good power play spot for the Hawks. So Seth Jones in play. Going back to Connor Murphy at 2,900 as well.
The guy we should mention is Oliver Bjork, or not Oliver Bjorkstrand, Adam Bokvist. Jeez.
Oh, yeah, he's back, yeah.
Yeah, he's back.
He's probably going to take power play one.
That's what I was wondering, is he had played some power play 1 minutes, I think it just in his brief stint earlier this season before he was injured. Certainly power play 2, got some power play 1 time last year. It's not like they've been really committed to Marcus Bjork on the top power play unit. Like, we might be getting 2,500 Adam Bokvist coming back tonight on power play 1, probably playing 19 minutes, 20 minutes in a 3.2 total. I think Bokvist, by far my favorite min price punt on the slate.
Yeah, good call there. He's not up in the lineup builder, but good thing you remember that. Let's head to the next one. Is a doozy. Vancouver Canucks with a 2.8 total heading into Edmonton. The Oilers have a 3.9. Vancouver played yesterday, so it's probably going to be Colin Delia in net for the Canucks. Could be Stewie Skinner for the Oilers. Oilers finished the game against Dallas with Puljujarvi up on the top line, but it doesn't matter to me. I'm just playing the power play guys and calling it a day. On the Canucks side, we'll have to wait and see on lines. You're not going to get skate here. They won a barn burner yesterday, so I would imagine maybe they stick the same, but they're just so bad defensively that this game is about Oilers power play.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about Pulju being on the top line. I don't think
he's going to stick there.
Yeah, they did have that combination the whole game. I don't think it necessarily matters here because one of the reasons you always play Edmonton for the power play, especially against this Vancouver penalty kill, which the Vancouver penalty kill, guess what? It's starting to get bad again. That's just kind of what they do. They don't take a ton of penalties, actually well below average in that regard. But Edmonton does draw a fair amount of power plays. Vancouver is on a back-to-back. Could be Delia in net. I wouldn't be surprised to see Spencer Martin on the back-to-back, even though he gave up 5 last night. But we'll see in that regard. But no matter what happens with Edmonton, I agree. You just play the power play guys. If you want to sneak a Puljujarvi in instead of Hyman and go like McDavid, Draisaitl, Pulju or something like that, I think that's playable. but it's back to the Edmonton power play guys, even if Matthias Janmark had that 3-point game last night. So, back to Edmonton 1. On the Vancouver side, we should mention that they did switch up their lines as the game went on last night. Horvat and Mikheyev, they added Brock Besser to their line. Besser and Horvat have been really, really bad defensively together this year. 3.3 expected goals against, 4.7 actual goals against in 90 minutes together. So that might be the line that Edmonton 1 sees, which would make it a good 5-on-5 matchup, let alone a good power play matchup. Edmonton 1, very, very expensive. Obviously, if you consider Leon Draisaitl there, but I really do love them here. If they do go with broken lines, it makes your stacks a little bit more fluid, right? Like you don't necessarily just have to go McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, walk away, right? Like you can include a Puljujarvi, or you can include a Nugent Hopkins or something like that. Do what you want. On the Vancouver side, JT Miller finished the game with Sheldon Dries and Connor Garland. So not playing him. You can go back to the Pettersson, Kuzmenko, Peterson line if you want. Like this is a good power play spot for Vancouver. Edmonton takes a lot of penalties, one of the most penalized teams in the league. The Vancouver power play scored twice last night, I think, including once in overtime. And it's been a lot better with Brock Besser there. So I think even a Vancouver power play stack can get you there, but it is kind of expensive. So if anything, it might just be one-offs in Vancouver, guys.
Yeah, if we do get a morning skate with Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman together, they would be 25-8 on DraftKings with a projection of over 50 points.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Hello. On the blue line here, I guess Tyson Barrie's in play tonight. It's a good power play spot. You just need him to shoot more, but he easily could Wenberg his way to an assist bonus. So I guess he's fine. Darnell Nurse is okay, 5,400. Cody Ceci, 2,900. He does see a couple seconds of power play 2-time. On the Vancouver side, right back to min price, Tyler Myers.
Tyler Myers is the guy that I have pinned out from this game. Played 22 minutes, I think it was last night. Got to the block bonus. I think there's a decent chance he can do that again here against the Oilers. I think I do kind of like Darnell Nurse in this game. He feels like he'll probably get overlooked in favor of Tyson Barrie, and he's been putting up a lot of peripherals over his last 10 or so games.
Yep. Don't mind him at all. We always love nurses here. Risk-free trial, 3 days of NHL for free. All you got to do, click the link in the description. It's got to be new users only if you've never had a Stokastic membership. Click the link in the description. This is for you. You get full access to everything that Stokastic has to offer. Projections, ownership, top stacks, Discord. That's the top stacks tool right there. It is very valuable. We look for leverage lines when we talk about leverage on the show. Cliff will bring it up. This is where we get it from. Lineup builder is how we, go through the show. Gives you lines, projections, line projections, ownership. You can build lineups in there, hence the name Lineup Builder. It is my favorite tool on the site. And then you get the Discord, which is excellent. You get a whole bunch of sharp news. You get, instructional videos on how to cook ribeyes in a catering tray. So hop in there, come say hello, say you're from YouTube, and we'll go from there. Los Angeles Kings with a 3.5 total heading into Arizona. The Coyotes have a 2.9 total. Juanito Quick, King Carol Vejmelka probable. This is interesting because the Coyotes have a 2.9 total. This is a pretty good power play spot. The Kings don't have a very good penalty kill. The power play units aren't great here. I don't even did the Coyotes put Juuso Valimaki on the top power play?
I think it was for the last 30 seconds of one power play or something like that. But yeah, I think it was Clayton Keller got booted off the power play for one power play. And I was okay, whatever you guys want to do.
I think people are going to go to the Arizona top line if they play Arizona, but for me, I'd prefer to go to that second line. Maselli, Bukestad, Krause, they're cheaper. They got two guys on the top unit. That's just me. I'm not prioritizing Arizona. in 1-3, but like if you need some filler guys on the power play against the weak penalty kill, I think that second line is where I'm going. This game is a Kings game for me. If you want to go back to that top line, I think that is perfectly acceptable. Their price on DraftKings is only 16,800, and they have a very high projection. They're almost projected for the same amount of points as the Columbus top line, and they're much cheaper. You want to go to that second line, I think that's fine. They're fully correlated on the second unit, which has been the better unit on the power play. This is another good power play spot. So, yeah, Kings are in play for sure for me.
Yeah, the Kings top line definitely carrying a pretty strong projection here. The Arizona side is kind of what I had interest in initially. Now, seeing that 2.9 total, that is something that is really interesting. You know, that's higher than Nashville. It's right in line with like New Jersey. Obviously, the matchups here is what matters. Keller, Boyd, and Schmaltz just haven't been playing all that well. In the month of December, 125 minutes together, 2.2 expected goals for, 2.2 actual goals for. Keller had that one big game where he had a hat trick, but that's about it. Like Travis Boyd has three shots in his last 5 games. Like he's just not doing anything. You know, if you want 2-man Keller and Schmaltz, I think that's fine. The reason I do kind of like the Arizona top line is they'll see that Fiala-Kopitar-Kempe matchup, and I think it's a better 5-on-5 matchup for Arizona than going up against the Danault line. So I don't mind like a 2-man Keller or Schmaltz here, just one off Keller or one off Schmaltz. I think that's perfectly acceptable. You don't have to play Travis Boyd tonight. The Arizona second line, you mentioned them, has been playing really well. I looked at their numbers in the month of December, 3.2 expected goals for, only 2.3 against. Like they're actually outplaying the competition. Who does that in Arizona? 3.4 actual goals scored. They're all playing like 17 to 19 minutes, so they're getting pretty good ice time as well. I agree that I don't think you have to full stack him, but like a Maselli Krause or a Bukestad Krause, something like that, I think is perfectly fine too, man. It is a tough matchup against Kings too, but it is a very good power play matchup, as you mentioned. It's also a very good matchup for power play matchup for the Kings. So I really, really do like the Kings top line. I think they come in a little bit higher than the 8% we have projected for them. But I agree, like one of the top mid-price, if not the top mid-price line on the slate here today.
Yeah, agreed. Not very often I come into a game and I am just like, yeah, let's play Maselli and Lawson Krause, but kind of interested in them tonight. We'll see where it goes. Let's move to the blue line. I wish Jacob Chikrin got top power play time because I think this is a pretty good spot for him. 6,700 is a bit expensive. We'll have to see. Like, I think Ghost is also fine at 4,900, but like again, power play time is concerned. Josh Brown, min price. There's a lot of min price guys in play today. On the King side, it's either Doughty or Dursey.
Yeah, Doughty, no real surprise to anybody, played pretty heavy minutes last night. I imagine he'll probably play pretty heavy minutes again tonight. He's fine. Dursey's fine as well. One thing I will say is that Arizona power play unit with Chikrin and Ghost, like a lot of their problems is just shooting percentage driven. They're actually generating a reasonable amount, 100 shot attempts per 60 minutes. It's that they're shooting 5%, which I guess makes sense for Arizona. Like they do lack some skill, but I don't mind Chikrin here today, actually. I think I'd probably rather pay down for Gostisbehere, but I don't mind either of them in this matchup. I don't mind the expensive defenseman for Arizona here.
Yep. St. Louis Blues with a 2.7 total heading into Vegas. The Golden Knights have a 3.3. Bennington and Logan Thompson are probable. So the Blues went back in practice to Buchnevich, Thomas, Tarasenko. They're expecting Kyrou to be out. Like the coach said, like he's probably out. He's working his way back, but there's a good chance he won't play tonight. So don't mind that as a line if they are. You always got to consider them. That being said, I prefer the Vegas side. And the thing with the Blues is they've been starting to take more penalties lately. So I do really like the power play guys. If you want to go to that second line, Smith, Carlson, Marshall, leave off Carlson, add in a Stone. I think that is a nice way to get some power play guys in, but this is a Vegas game for me.
Yeah, Vegas has been using that Stone Stevenson a Matteo line against top lines. I'm just wondering which one they consider the top line here tonight. Is it going to be O'Reilly or is it going to be Buchnevich? Because that O'Reilly line, not great defensively, but the Buchnevich line, like considerably worse defensively. 3.3 expected goals against this year in 135 minutes together. That's pretty bad. 3.5 actual goals against. This again, a Saturn O'Reilly, still below average, but much better than that. So I think it's a good matchup to go right back to Vegas too, but they're starting to get pretty expensive, right? 16,400 is fine, but 7K Jonathan Marchessault is really expensive. Riley Smith, 5,500. He's on top power play and getting more minutes, so I guess that's fine. I'm not expecting these are two of the lowest power play opportunity and shorthanded teams in the league, so not expecting much in ways of power play time here. So I don't think that matters. I think we're looking for 5-on-5 matchups. I think Vegas 2, going back to them, I think it's a better 5-on-5 matchup for them. I just think they're starting to get a little bit expensive. So maybe one-offing Marchessault or one-offing Smith might be my preferred route here. On the St. Louis side, like nothing for me. I don't really attack Vegas when teams are on the road. So I think it's more on the Vegas side in particular for me.
Got the Vegas excited about your Blues fade. You know who Jonathan Marchessault reminds me of? Earmuffs, Jake. He reminds me of Taylor Hall when he was on the Oilers.
Ooh.
Anyway, to the blue line we go. Pietrangelo, 6,800 on the top power play. I think he's fine. Avery, can you pick him up so he stops yapping? Thank you. I think this is a decent spot for Pietrangelo. Daniil Miramonov at 3,300, I think, is an okay punt. On the blue side, pass. Yeah,
it's not a good power play spot for St. Louis, so I'm out on Krug. Parayko's been playing really heavy minutes, like 25 plus of late. So, I think Parayko's fine at 4,200 on DK, 5,100 on FanDuel, but certainly not a guy that I'm prioritizing or anything. I agree. I think it's either Pietrangelo or Miramonov, depending on which price point you need on the Vegas side.
Yep. Let's head to the last game of the night. Calgary Flames with a 3.7 total heading into Anaheim. The Ducks have a 2.7. Flames played last night. This is also back-to-back on the road, 4 and 6. A whole bunch of keep goings there. Teams generally who have played that much recently on the road, the numbers drop off. That being said, the Ducks' top line is 14-7. They got a pretty good projection. We going back to the Ducks' top line here?
I'm thinking about it. 4 and 6 for the Flames. Also, obviously, it's a getaway game. Like the holiday break starts as soon as the final whistle goes. So, maybe they're just looking forward to getting home after playing 4 and 6 on the road. The Anaheim top line in our lineup builder coming in, they have a higher line projection than any line on the Flame side, despite only having that 2.7 total. It's that concentrated scoring problem. It's like if Anaheim gets 4 goals here tonight, probably know where those goals are going to come from, and it's going to be the top line. Problem is that Dubé, Lindholm, Toffoli line has looked pretty good defensively. At least in the minutes I saw, certainly by the numbers early on in their sample. So that's a little bit of a concern. I would honestly rather see them go up against that Huberdeau, Kadri, Lucic line. I don't think that's going to happen. But Anaheim 1 is coming in with a pretty good projection. They're not going to carry that much ownership. I would say probably 4 to 5%. That's what our top stacks tool says anyway, both on DraftKings and FanDuel. So I don't mind Anaheim 1 here. Not sure I'd get there in an 11 game in a single entry or something like that. But if I'm playing 20 lineups or something, I might have 1 or 2 Anaheim in there. Certainly if I'm playing 150. One problem I have with the Ducks is Troy Terry. His shooting has really fallen off of late, averaging 3.7 shot attempts per game in his last 9 games. I'd want him averaging 3.7 shots, not shot attempts, right? He had double that rate in the first 9 games of the season. So there's been a considerable drop off from him. that's a bit concerning for me, and it is a tough matchup. So I don't mind Anaheim 1. Could be a good spot for them, especially with Markstrom in net, with the way that he's been playing most of the season. So they're fine, but I don't think I'm running out to play them. On the Flame side, I kind of like that Mangiapane, Backlund, Coleman trio. I know they don't get any power play time. You might want to focus on the power play guys here because Anaheim does have a terrible penalty kill. So if you want to go back to Huberdeau and Kadri, like I mentioned yesterday, I think that's fine. If you want to just full stack the top line, get 2 out of the 3 guys in top power play, I think that's perfectly acceptable as well. We're not expecting massive ownership on the Flames here, which is kind of surprising, but I guess it makes sense when you think that they can spread out the scoring across 3 lines. I do like that Mangiapane, Backlund, Coleman line. Backlund and Mangiapane have been exceptional together this year. 80 minutes together, 4.1 expected goals for, 70% shot attempt share. I think they could absolutely roll the Ducks, but 4 and 6 back-to-back on the road, it worries me a little bit. If anything, it's probably stacking the power play guys from the Flames, but I really do like that Backlund line.
Yeah, I do like Calgary 3, and their projection is very close to the top 2 lines as well. So, yeah. Like the depth of the Ducks, too, is just a scene defensively. Like, they're so bad. So, yeah.
What depth?
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there you go. Coming up right after us at 9:45 a.m. Eastern, we have the NBA Strategy Show with Greg and Adam. Ship my money, DF, or sure. I don't know why I said DFS.
Ship my money. Ship my money, DFS.
Yeah, there you go. Sure. Sorry about that. Never happened again. Let's talk some goalies here. What big slate? Who you liking in that?
I mean, King Carl, right? Got to mention King Carl Vejmelka in net. He's super cheap for Arizona, 6,900. Definitely don't mind him if he starts. Joonas Korpisalo for Columbus was activated off the injured reserve yesterday. He's not been good this year, but DK has him at 6,500. There's a goalie that might get a win here tonight. Whoever starts for Florida, I'll have to see. Wouldn't mind Knight.
Got confirmed, by the way.
Okay, all right. Well, never mind that. Don't mind UC Saros at home. I think this is a night for cheap goalies. There are a lot of cheap goalies in decent spots that I don't mind, like UC Saros 7,100 on DK. As I mentioned, Korpisalo. Oh, they jumped up Korpisalo's price. It was 6,500 when I was researching this last night.
Yeah, because they added they had to add the Calgary Flames game, so they
redid the slate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, never mind on Korpisalo then. So Saros, Vejmelka, if you want to take a shot on Dostal, I think that's fine again if he starts for Anaheim. Like, this is a night where I'm looking for cheap goalies. I don't see a reason to play the expensive goalies here tonight.
If you are going to pay up and it's not really paying up, he's 7,900. I think Alex Georgiev is the spend up spot there for me.
Okay. I mean, I'll mention Linus Ullmark as well, 7,800. New Jersey might generate some shots. Boston back-to-back on the road. You know what I mean? Ullmark has been really, really good since he got to Boston. So don't mind him if you want to pay up as well.
Yep. Agreed there. Who are you looking for your hat trick pick?
Going into the holiday break, I'm going to go with a little bit of spice. We're going to go with Nick Schmaltz.
Nick Schmaltz on Festivus. We love to see it. I'm keeping my spice tradition going. Little chili pea, if you may say. Kent Johnson.
Ooh, I like it. All right, we're banking on Arizona and Columbus on an 11-game slate. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, so a lot. So for Cliffy, I am Josh. Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. We'll be back on Tuesday. Make sure to click those links in the description. Drive safe, travel safe. We'll see you next week.
Happy holidays and good luck, everyone.